Interrompemos esse podcast para uma notícia imperdível. Cidade de Deus. A luta não para. Assista a nova série da Max com estreia dia 25 de agosto. Produzida por Fernando Meirelles, baseada no filme. Mas com uma nova história sobre o tráfico, a milícia, corrupção e resistência na favela. Imperdível mesmo. Saiba mais em max.com.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm Jim Hill, and we are here to uncover stories behind your favorite collectibles, products, and brand. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Lauren Hersey.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
And, today we are getting into the full-blown spirit of Halloween. And we are going to do a deep dive into the origins of Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party. And because apparently we are on the retail schedule, we are also going to be talking about some of this year's must-have Disney merch that you probably don't want to miss. And, it feels like Halloween is starting earlier and earlier every year, but honestly, I can't even say I'm mad about it. I'm ready to start decorating for fall and Halloween. How about you, Mr. Hill?
Well, I'm one of those guys. I'm a whiny baby man. Okay, so for example, whenever suddenly it's pumpkin spice season, and poor Nancy is like, oh God, he's going to start ranting about pumpkin spice again. But it's just, I guess in the retail space, this is known as Ogtober, as an AUG.
Yes.
And in fact, I think I was mentioning when we were pre-gaming the show that just this past Friday, when I was in Target doing some shopping, they were tearing down the back to school section in my local Target so they could expand the footprint of the Halloween section, which had gone in just after the 4th of July.
But I was in Target today, and I have to say that they were starting to dismantle back to school, but I only saw one pack of pumpkin Reese cups.
Really?
So Target here, it hasn't made it to Halloween just yet. Now, the front, the dollar bin, multi-dollar bin area when you walk in that always sucks you in, that was all Halloween.
Okay. Yeah. It's just interesting how it arrives. Just sort of and as you mentioned, it starts with the candy.
Yeah, but seriously though, when is it too early to start celebrating Halloween? I have to admit, I was taken aback just a little bit. Just a couple weeks ago, we were at D23 and we went to, DCA and Disneyland. And not only was the park decorated for Halloween, the merch was out in every store. And people were decked out in their Halloween garb. Pumpkin ears and all, which that was a little bit surprising to me. I knew that Disney started Halloween in August, and I had been to several not so scary Halloween parties before school started, and 1 year we dressed up as Star Wars characters in the 100-degree heat. And so that's not something that you quickly forget, but there's a big difference to me between the end of August and the first week of August. So is it getting earlier or is it just me?
Oh, no, you're not wrong. In fact, remember, you and I were out in California very first day of this year's D23 Expo. And it was one of these things where I was looking at my phone and it's why are the Sanderson sisters in front of Cinderella Castle in Florida? And it's that night, August 9th, was the very first Mickey's Not So Scary down in Florida. And I want to say this year, 38 days? So look, let's be realistic here. It's Disney starting the Halloween season early to maximize their window, so to speak, for these holiday offerings. But at the same time, as you notice, there's a significant retail component. The earlier this merch hits the store shelves, like at our local Target, the more opportunities there are for the guests in the Disney parks to then purchase and enjoy this stuff. So when you were in the parks in August,
Early August.
talk about some of the Halloween items you saw. What really stood out?
Yeah, there were a lot of really cool items that I'm excited to share with you. But
Mhm.
before we do that, why don't we thank our not so scary sponsor?
Excellent suggestion. And so we have to give a big shout out to touringplans.com for sponsoring today's show. Planning a trip to Disney and Universal can sometimes feel overwhelming with everything there is to see and do, like the Halloween decorations that show up in August. But touring plans help to make that easier. They have personalized planning tools and they have crowd insights that help you dodge long lines and maximum your time in your park. So if you're looking to save both time and money on your next visit, be sure to check out touringplans.com. Okay, now back to the merch, Lauren. All right, so what did you spot at Disneyland that really caught your eye?
Okay, well, first, I feel like we can't talk about Disneyland and Halloween without talking about Oogie Boogie Bash merch.
Mhm.
And even though this year Disney added more dates than they've ever had before, unfortunately, the event is still sold out.
Yeah.
However, if you are into it and you love some Oogie Boogie, you can still get some of the merch during the day at DCA, so don't worry. This collection, it mostly features Oogie Boogie himself, just as you might imagine. But this time, he is also joined by some other infamous villains. I really loved how they leaned heavily into the neon green and purple. There's actually a hoodie, and it is straight up neon green.
Oh.
Like, so if you're looking for something that is eye-catching, that is probably for you.
Okay.
I'm sure this is going to shock you, but like I really like the new mini ears for the party specifically. So one ear, Oogie Boogie, and he's like looming over Carthay Circle, while the other ear has those other villains I was talking about. You got Jafar and the Evil Queen, and there's some like bats flying around, and the center of the bow is bat wings, and then the back obviously has the party logo for 24, and then some other villains on the other ear. And they are not the new $19.99. They are $44.99 if you want to get your hands on those party specific ears. That's a lot, right?
That is more trick than treat, but okay. Wow. Okay.
I think so too.
Okay.
But if you're Oogie Boogie, it is once a year, so supply and demand, I guess. But they also have a Loungefly, matching Loungefly. They have a party shirt, and it wouldn't be Disney without a Spirit jersey, a tumbler, and some pins. So
there you go. There you go.
You can load up over at DCA. And then, okay, this is the one I'm most excited about. I have to share.
Okay.
So now this one is on the DisneyStore.com, but the Scarlet Witch got her own collection.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I mean, like, I think it's really exciting, and I think it dropped just in time for Halloween. And she also has some Loungefly ears. They look as you would imagine. Again, they have a matching mini Loungefly, magic band, Spirit jersey, and not a tumbler, but a stainless steel canteen. I mean, Disney has their bundles, so that's for sure.
They do.
But, back when WandaVision first came out on Disney Plus, my daughter was pumped, and she actually dressed up like the Scarlet Witch for Halloween. But back then, when the show first came out, like, you couldn't get your hands on anything. Like, so it was DIYing costumes, or like it was really slim pickings. So I'm really happy that she's finally getting the representation that she deserves.
And the timing's kind of appropriate as well, because if you think about it, we're getting a sequel of sorts to WandaVision, which again dropped in early 2021. And if you watch the show, you remember Catherine Hahn is Agatha Harkness, and Agatha is getting her own limited series over at Disney Plus starting later this month. It's called Agatha All Along, just like the song.
Shocker.
Yep. Starts on September 18th with 2 episodes dropping exclusively on Disney Plus. And again, it's it's lovely that Disney is expanding these characters, the ones we introduced to with WandaVision. But other thing I wanted to point out here, though, Lauren, is just last week we learned that we have a second sequel of sorts coming for WandaVision, and this is Vision Quest, which is going to it's not going to debut for a bit yet. My understanding is we're not going to see it to 2026, but it continues the storyline of Paul Bettany's Vision character from WandaVision. And what's especially interesting is what was announced last week, and it really got people talking, is that James Spader, the character that he voiced from Avengers Age of Ultron, Ultron himself, somehow factors into the show. He's coming back for this limited series. But obviously, again, if we jump ahead 2 years, maybe then, in addition to the Scarlet Witch outfits, you can get your Vision costume or your Ultron costume.
Sign me up. That's very exciting. And I'm wondering if they made this announcement last week because, I mean, I think people are buzzing about Agatha. And they're like, well, maybe we'll continue it. So I look forward to seeing what's to come there.
Cool.
Other things that looking forward to is just the general Halloween merch. And I don't know if this collection or, series of collections is bigger than past years for Disney, but they have multiple Halloween collections. So they have the Halloween Family Collection. They have a Stitch Halloween collection. And then they have a Candy Corn Halloween collection. So I guess they're covering all of their bases. To me, it looked like the family Halloween collection is where you get like the costumes, the, apparel and accessories, and the home items, I would say. Like, I am really personally eyeing up the Mickey fall wreath. Like, I have been looking at this wreath for many years. I'm like, this year might be the year that pull the trigger. Fingers crossed.
Okay. No, I have to admit, I've done the same thing, only with the Night Before for Christmas holiday wreath. Same thing. It's like,
they're so expensive.
They are, but they are so great looking.
They really are. Other things that are great looking is Disney put out a lot of glow in the dark items this year, which are really perfect for Oogie Boogie Bash or Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, or if you're going out trick or treating like you're an adult, maybe you're with kids, whatever. I think that's a really nice addition, and I feel like we've seen a lot of glow in the dark items this year. Don't you think? I feel like we've talked about a lot of glow in the dark things.
Well, you were just talking about the neon green and purple. I just sort of like that. It seems like it's that color palette, only more so with the glow in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, people must be buying it. So if it's a hit, Disney's going to keep on producing.
There you go.
So, Jim, just for funsies, in the spirit of Halloween, I have to ask, if you were attending Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, but in August, what Disney character would you dress up as? And remember, let's keep with the theme of the podcast. It needs to be something Disney.
Okay. Well, if that is the case, I have a visual aid. All right, because I think I've referred to this guy as my spirit animal. But yes, if I had to dress up, it would be as Bing Bong. In fact, it is my great disappointment, my one disappointment out of our most recent trip out to California, the bunch of us going out and doing the D23 Expo, that I managed to make it over to the Pixar Place Hotel, evidently in the one window of time that Bing Bong, they have an exclusive walk-around character. Bing Bong is exclusive to that hotel. I missed it. And yet, to rub salt in the wound, Shul was over there and got pictures and video of Bing Bong greeting guests in the lobby. So I missed my spirit animal. But yeah, I would dress as Bing Bong. The problem is, look at this guy. Look, he's got a tail, he's got a coat, he's got a hat. This would be a warm outfit for August. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe
you're committed to your craft.
There we go. Or maybe Bing Bong when he goes to the beach. I don't know.
I mean, we do have snowman that likes summer, so you never know.
There we go. Okay, now, Lauren, your turn. Which Disney character would you choose to dress up at a Disney Halloween event presented in August?
Okay, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit because cool, being comfortable is my number one MO.
Mhm.
So one year when we went in August, I was a DVC card. I had the blue shirt with the cricketed, like full, like legit front of the DVC card.
Mhm.
But it gets better. So this wasn't just a single, effort. This was a family affair. So Eric was a pressed penny. My son was an annual pass holder card.
Mhm.
Lainey was a refillable mug that you get at the resorts.
Mhm.
And Miles was just a baby, and he was the Mickey plush. And my mom, who we call Go-Go, was a magic band. And it was pretty epic. It was cool, and we got compliments everywhere that we went. It was fun.
Oh, those sound genuinely clever. More to the point, that sounds like a cool way to experience Halloween in August at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, I mean, it really was, and we had fun doing it.
Oh, all right. So that sounds like a wonderful hack for our listeners, and you guys definitely didn't lack creativity. More to the point, again, you were able to stay cool. So sounds like a win-win-win to me. But you know how we got here?
Actually, no, I don't. I mean, we started going to the parks like frequently back in 2014. So the Halloween parties, Christmas parties, like they already existed. So I have no idea how we got to having the parties and having them so often.
Okay. Well, when we get back from the break, we will dive into the origin story of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. But first, this.
Interrompemos esse podcast para uma notícia imperdível. Cidade de Deus. A luta não para. Assista a nova série da Max com estreia dia 25 de agosto. Produzida por Fernando Meirelles, baseada no filme. Mas com uma nova história sobre o tráfico, a milícia, corrupção e resistência na favela. Imperdível mesmo. Saiba mais em max.com.
Salve, meu povo! Aqui é o Igão. Ó, ouvindo um podcast no caminho do trabalho ou enquanto prepara a comida? Acertei? Mas uma coisa que eu sei é que cê tá aí no corre. Hoje em dia, todo mundo é correria. Parece até que o dia tem mais de 24 horas. É por isso que Rexona te dá muito mais proteção pra você encarar a sua rotina. Rexona, proteção superior a 72 horas por dia. Rexona não te abandona.
Desfrute do novo Icon of the Seas da Royal Caribbean, agora partindo de Miami. É o ícone das férias repleto de atrações, com o maior parque aquático no mar e espetáculos sensacionais da Broadway. Com destinos incríveis no Caribe, incluindo a premiada ilha particular Perfect Day at Coco Cay, a aventura nunca acaba. Icon of the Seas, as melhores férias em família do mundo. Acesse royalcaribbean.com/BRA. Aplicam-se termos e condições.
And we're back. So, we know that the Halloween parties in both U.S. parks seem to be starting earlier and earlier and earlier every year. But, Jim, how did we get here?
Well, again, as we mentioned at the top of the show, you're not wrong. This year, the parties in Florida started on Friday, August 9th, and again, 38 dates this year. And by the way, one of the dates, September 24th, just went clean. And to be honest, there were only 2 dates left in the month of September where you can still get tickets to this year's Mickey's Not So Scary, and those are September 22nd and 26th. But also, as you mentioned in the top of today's show, Oogie Boogie Bash. The very first of these was held a week, 10 days ago on August 23rd, and 27 dates this year. And as Lauren mentioned, completely sold out. And which is so different from when the very first Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party was held. This was a one-night only thing that was held at Florida's Magic Kingdom on Tuesday night, October 31st, 1995.
Listen, Jim, I cannot even imagine there only being a Halloween party for one night. So I'm dying to know, like, what was it like?
Well, as it turns out, I was there. Not only that, I was there with my then 18-month-old daughter, Alice, and her mom, Michelle. Tickets, by the way, set us back $16.95, which, by the way, that there are nights for this year's Mickey's Not So Scary where you have to pay a multiple of 10 of that to get in.
$16.95. I feel like you can't go to Wendy's for that.
No, you can't. Trust me. Anything involving bacon, it's not going to happen. Okay. Thinking back on this first Mickey's Not So Scary, we brought Alice in her Emil Younger stroller. Have you ever seen these things? They're Swedish built. They very sturdy. They're the size of a small car. And Michelle insisted on the safest possible stroller for our daughter. So this is what we got. And by the way, Alice was a very cute baby. Lovely young lady now. And so we'd roll up to the various spots on the trick-or-treat trail. The cast members would go, "Aw," and then shovel candy into her stroller. And seriously, Lauren, I think when we left the park, we had gotta be 30 pounds of fun-sized candy bars in Alice's stroller. I mean, I remember almost giving myself a hernia pushing the stroller uphill to the monorail. But again, this October 31st, 1995 is when Disney got into Halloween as a hard ticket event. And just to be completely honest here, the folks at Team Disney Orlando only did this because Universal Studios Florida, which had launched its Halloween hard ticket, which originally was called Fright Nights, not Halloween Horror Nights, in 1991, they seemed to be making money hand over fist with their own hard ticket seasonal after-hours event.
I could have never imagined that they came to the Halloween game first.
Oh, they had to. They had to because people, they honestly had no choice. They had to do something to improve that theme park's cash flow, especially during the fall months. I mean, people today forget that when Universal Studios Florida first opened in June of 1990, it had an absolutely horrible first summer. King Kong Encounter, Jaws the Ride, Earthquake, the big one, would repeatedly break down. In fact, people as they left the park were typically handed a free ticket to return to Universal Studios Florida. As they went through the turnstile, the team member there would just please come back when things work. You'll have a much better time. And now, mind you, by 1991, things got a little better. That was the year that Back to the Future, the ride, opened in May, and King Kong Encounter and Earthquake, the big one, resolved a lot of their operational issues and began working on a more consistent basis. Where Jaws the Ride, Lauren, that didn't reopen. I mean, they literally closed it and gutted the thing. It didn't reopen again until spring of 1993. So 3 years. All right. Anyway, given Universal's somewhat sketchy rep at this time, attendance levels at the theme park would fall straight through the floor once the summer season was over. And the park needed a way to boost revenue, sell tickets between Labor Day and holiday season, and which is why somebody came up with the idea of, hey, why don't we do a horror-themed event around Halloween? I mean, look, we're Universal. We're famous for our classic movie monsters. It's a gimme.
So, I mean, it sounds like that Universal was really scrambling to keep the park afloat during those early years, unfortunately.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I have to wonder, did their gamble on the Halloween parties pay off right away, or was it a slow burn?
Well, I mean, again, it began modestly. The first Fright Night at Universal Studios Florida, it was a 3-day long affair. And by the way, tickets to that were only $12.95 each. But it did well enough that by 1992, Universal Studios Florida presented what would now be called Halloween Horror Nights over 5 nights. More to the point, Universal had sold enough tickets and there had been strong enough demand that they actually jumped the event's ticket price. And again, remember, $12.95 to get into the first one to $22.95, $10 more a ticket. And this second edition of this after-hour seasonal hard ticket did so well that by 1993, so 3 years in, Universal has turned Halloween Horror Nights into a 7-night-long affair. And more to the point, again, due to strong guest demand for tickets, Universal Studios Florida is now charging out-of-state visitors $35 a ticket to get into Halloween Horror Nights. And their kids, if they want to bring them along and get traumatized, that's $28 a ticket, where if you're a Florida local, you got a discounted ticket for just $25. And by the way, it's at this moment, with Universal getting away with charging out-of-state visitors $35 to come to the Halloween horror event, that executives at the Team Disney Orlando building are like, okay, we need to get one of those going over at the Magic Kingdom. Now, where this gets interesting, Lauren, is that Disney had, in fact, been doing Halloween events at the Walt Disney World Resort. In fact, they started as early as the mid-1970s. But these were largely confined to the Walt Disney World Shopping Village, now Disney Springs. And they literally had a rule that a kid couldn't come trick-or-treating to the Lake Buena Vista event unless they were accompanied by their parents. And what was especially funny about this is that there was method to the mouse's madness. The thinking was that as the kids went store to store collecting candy with their parents in tow, mom and dad might then see something that they might be interested in purchasing. But again, Universal now has this Halloween-themed hard ticket, clearly making serious bank. In fact, we jump ahead a year now, 1994. They're presenting it over 8 nights now, and they've raised ticket prices across the board $1 a piece. And so Disney at this point, okay, no more free Halloween over at the shopping village. We're going to create our own brand new seasonal hard ticket event for the Magic Kingdom, which something that they would then stage inside of that theme park after the Magic Kingdom had closed for the day.
Wow, it's kind of wild how quickly Universal saw the potential with Halloween Horror Nights. So when Disney noticed this, how did they approach creating their own event? Because, they couldn't just copy what was going on over at Universal, and they were out of the free candy business in exchange for maybe their parents buying something. So what did they do?
Well, you're not wrong. And this is where it gets tricky, because Disney, as a rule, doesn't do horror. Sure, they scare kids. There's Snow White Scary's Adventure, there's the Haunted Mansion, but they don't venture into full-on horror. So Disney wanted something also here that would appeal to both resort guests as well as Central Florida locals. And given that Universal was very upfront about how their Halloween Horror Night event was packed with gore and jump scares, Disney wanted to go in the other direction. That's why right from the start they called it Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, with the idea here being, look, we promise not to frighten your small children, so feel free to bring them here to trick or treat if you're looking for a more family-friendly Halloween event.
That is so incredibly clever. And okay, so now it makes total sense, because, I always thought they are so different, the two parks and how they approach Halloween. Genius, Disney, genius.
Yeah, but again, what's interesting is they try to lean into creating a magical experience for families, so that they took the idea of Halloween and again, leaned into the trick-or-treating that was baked in from day one, but also tried to create something that's fun and accessible for everyone, which is a smart move considering that Universal is doing something, it's Halloween Horror Nights, much more intense. So it allowed Disney to cater to a different audience and ensuring that both locals and tourists would have a reason to visit the Magic Kingdom during the fall season. But that said, Disney wasn't going into the situation exactly cold. They sort of had a template for this kind of after-hours hard ticket event, which, by the way, was Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Now, That, just like Halloween Horror Nights, got started as a one-night only party. This was back in 1983. First one was held on December 16th of that year, and it was a Friday night. And by the way, Lauren, if you wanted to get into that first party, you had to lay out a whole $13.95.
A price I would gladly pay.
Now, by 1994, which is the crucial year for the development of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party had grown to now it's a 3-day long affair. And by the way, exact dates for the after hours party that year was December 9th, 10th, and 16th. And by the way, that year, 1994, was the very first time that party attendees got snowed on as they strolled down Main Street, USA. And, okay, just in case you're wondering how they do this, this was done by using Snope machines. But that's a real name, by the way.
Snope, not snow?
No, it's a device that churns up stuff that looks like snowflakes by chopping up soap suds into tiny little bits and then blowing them out in the air so they can drift down to the ground. So again, you got snowflakes made of soap suds, hence the name Snope. But these machines are placed on the roofs of various buildings along the front of the park. And by the way, I know the people who listen to the show, I want that too, collectible fans. If you head over to eBay now, you can still get your hands on the special souvenir button that was given out to all event attendees for that year's Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Cute button. I want to say the graphic was done by illustrator Peter Elmsley, but it's a close-up of Mickey's nose with a snowflake on it. And in addition to listing that year's date, 1994, this button literally says the first snow. Now, that said, because the Magic Kingdom was already decorated for the holidays at that point in December of 94, I mean, for example, that year, the park had an 80-foot tall white fur in Town Square, decorated with 6,000 lights and 1,000 Victorian-style ornaments. I mean, it was easy to pass the place off as a Christmas-themed winter wonderland whenever Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party was being presented after hours. But now, think about it. During a time when the Magic Kingdom really didn't decorate for Halloween, how do you then turn your theme park into a not-so-scary space?
I have no idea. How'd they do it?
Well, in this case, you do a lot of temporary things. You set up lights. You change out your soundtrack. You bring in a lot of artificial fog machines.
What? That was what they were doing coming out the gate?
Oh, yeah. But on the other hand, again, remember that the idea is that this is going to be a family-friendly event. So they do some really smart things. Like, for example, they bring over some horse-drawn wagons from Fort Wilderness and then offer folks hay rides through Frontierland. And the Disney villains were out in force, but again, different than Universal, not allowed to be scary. So they posed for pictures, they signed a lot of autographs, and I got to tell you, they were very sweet and gentle with Alice. A lot of folks leaning into that Emily Younga. And also, what was especially cool about this very first Mickey's Not So Scary is it was the debut of the Headless Horseman. And then they had a rider on the back of this giant black Percheron. Now, kind of different from what they do today. The early version of the Headless Horseman only appeared in Liberty Square with the idea that, well, this is the area of the park that actually, it literally was the setting for the Washington Irving story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. So the character did not ride through the whole park, but he was in that area, and it was pretty cool.
What did the button say? Did it say like Headless in the 90s or something like that? For the first one?
I have to. It's funny you say that because I ran out of time. I was going to go around digging in the basement to see what I took home from that year's event. But remember, Disney made I'm not going to say a minimal investment in this event because they weren't entirely sure. In fact, let me be clear. Disney was blunt. This after-hours event that was held on Tuesday night, October 31st, was just a trial balloon. In fact, Disney World spokesman Greg Albrecht flat out told the Orlando Sentinel that if Mickey's Not So Scary Party was successful, we'll do it again.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt, but I'm assuming that you said mildly, but I would assume it'd have to be a huge success since we have so many parties today. Am I wrong?
I have to tell you, from having been there in the park for that inaugural edition of this after Halloween event at the Magic Kingdom, I remember it being very lightly attended. I mean, to be honest, that's why we got so much candy that night. We rolled the Emil Younga along the trick-or-treat trail and run into these cast members who were bored out of their minds because they had seen so few people. And so that's why they were shoveling the candy into the stroller. But also Alice was a very cute baby. All right. Now, and what's interesting is that Magic Kingdom managers clearly saw some potential in this seasonal hard ticket because the very next month, Lauren, November of 1995, Disney World spokesperson, again, Greg Albrecht, told my pal, Leslie Doolittle, who wrote the tourism column for the Sentinel back there, that we were very pleased with the turnout. It showed that there is definitely a market for family trick-or-treating. Now, that said, Disney for the next year still did a one night only thing in 1996. And supposedly this was Disney executives being cautious. And it's like, okay, show me that what happened in 1995 is not a fluke. It wasn't. So by 97, we get our third Mickey's Not So Scary. It's now doubled in size. There's two dates. And this is when we get our first street cavalcade, which eventually grows into the Mickey's Boo to You Halloween Parade.
Wait, we've had Mickey's Boo to You since 1997?
Well, again, a very modest version of the parade debuted in 97.
Okay.
But every year, and it was always funny to watch which parade float from another parade. They would, they decorate with bunting and hi, this is now Halloween themed. I remember especially there used to be in fact, they still bring it out every now and then. It's a silo from a farm. And back then they used to have Clara Cluck hanging out of the top of it and singing. But I want to say for the first street cavalcade, they had all sorts of scarecrows dancing in the street in front of it because it's like, yeah, scarecrows are from Halloween and they're kind of scary, but no kid's gonna.
But not so scary.
But not so scary. There we go. So, but again, we jump ahead 37 years, and now Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party again, 38 times this year.
Wow.
Now, that said, that's still less the number of Halloween Horror Nights that are being presented over at Universal Studios Florida this year. That seasonal hard ticket is being presented 48 times this year, with the very first one having just been staged a day or so ago on August 30th.
Holy moly. That is a lot of Halloween horror. Are they doing it every day? I mean, I'm assuming they're giving people what they want.
Well, I mean, it definitely seems like it. Though your husband, Eric, and I have previously talked about this over on the Epic Universal podcast, how, again, being blunt here, the Disney parks would not have gotten Star Wars Galaxy's Edge if the Wizarding World of Harry Potter hadn't been such a huge hit when it debuted at Islands back in 2010. Likewise, again, just being honest here, folks, the Disney parks would not have greenlit so many new attractions for its Florida operation. We were just talking about them over on Disney Dish, the redo of Dino Land USA. So it will now have an Encanto Village and an Indiana Jones attraction. Likewise, Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer's Island going away for the Cars Road Rally attraction for the Magic Kingdom. None of that would have happened if the folks in Florida, again, in the Team Disney Orlando building, weren't concerned about what was going on with Epic Universe. So I'm just going to flat out say this, Lauren, that I don't think that we would have a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party if Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal Studios Florida hadn't been such an enormous moneymaker right out of the gate in 1991. And again, back then, originally, the thing was called Fright Nights.
This just goes to show how competition can positively impact the consumer.
Mhm.
I mean, like you mentioned, look at all the cool things that Disney announced at D23. And I mean, who knows what we would have gotten if we wouldn't have had that friendly rivalry. So keep on producing. And, there are things that are coming down the pike I'm really excited for. Speaking of which, one of those things we're going to cover in the next episode of I Want That Too. We are going to be diving into all things monsters. And Jim has a really fun story to share about Little Monsters on Main Street, which was an event that ranged from 89 to 2012 that you most likely have never heard of, because I have not heard of that. So I'm really excited to dig in there. And, with that said, I think it's about that time, Jim. I think it's about that time that we close up shop.
Well, perhaps you're right, Lauren. But keeping with the Halloween theme, I'm curious what our listeners think. I mean, do you folks think that Halloween these days is being celebrated a bit too early, or are Disney and Universal just giving people what they actually want?
Yeah, let us know. We're curious. I mean, you've heard our takes on it. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm Lauren Hersey on Instagram, Facebook, Lauren at laurenhersey.com. And Jim, where can the good folks find you?
Let's see. I am on X, Twitter, and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and then over at Facebook as Jim Hill Media News.
All right.
I guess that's going to do it for this week. So, on behalf of the lovely Lauren Hersey, thank you for listening to this week's edition of I Want That Too, and we will be back soon.